This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeandfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeandfilm. Welcome to A Life in Film. I'm Elliot James Langridge. I'm an actor, writer, and apparently a podcaster, and I love film. This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story? Previous guests include Wumi Masaku, Jason Fleming, Andrea Riseborough, Sasha Lane, and Dexter Fletcher. Our guest today was plucked out of school for his very first acting role, which was in the fantastic The Selfish Giant. His latest role is in the critically acclaimed debut feature from Molly Manning Walker, How to Have Sex. Our guest today is actor Shaun Thomas.
It's a life in film. 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 Woo!
Hey Shaun, how's it going? You good?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. You had a pretty solid debut in terms of filmmaking. How did you get involved in your first film? Like, what was it a normal casting process for The Selfish Giant, or were you kind of plucked from somewhere?
I was plucked from high school. So I grew up in an estate in Bradford where what you see in The Selfish Giant, that was kind of the culture of life where I lived. So I used to spend a lot of time with horses and going scrap metaling and collecting scrap and stuff like that. And I genuinely really had a passion for horses. So that being said, I kind of started like bunking off of school and not going to school and spending more time with the horses. So school put in like a specialized learning program where I went into school for like a couple hours a day. And then if I did that and I did all that correctly and I behaved, then I got to go to a riding school, which were local to where my school was. And then Film 4 came to the school looking for a character that was knowledgeable in horses and knew about scrap metal and that might have been interested in being a part in The Selfish Giant. So I had like peers in my school who were kind of like looking after me at the time, kind of saying, Shaun, this is really for you. You're going to love it. And I was always kind of in my mind like, no, I'm not going to be an actor. You've got a drama section in school. Just go get a drama kid or something like that. So I kind of never really aspired to be an actor. Then I met with Amy Hubbard for the audition in school. And it went really well. And I would just kind of like just read the lines. Like I was like, I'm going to say it how I think it should be said, basically. And I think that like caught a few eyes. And then I started doing the chemistry reads with Connor, the other lead. And then it just spiraled from there. And we ended up doing the shoot. And then they supported me in getting an agent. And I've worked hard since to get to here.
What you doing, Saeed? Let's get out and make some money, Con.
What's that? Where'd you get that?
Cable, we found it.
Take it inside.
There you go. 110 quid there.
Vandalism, trespass on the railway.
There's some unscrupulous people out there getting kids to do their dirty work. Don't want you going down there no more.
Reckon we could get that cable off at pylon? Probably about 500 quid.
Don't even think about it, Arbor. It's too risky.
Come on, man, I can't do it on my own. You're a kid.
I want better for you.
You nicked this, did you? Gonna get your head kicked in.
Don't stand up for yourself. You're soft.
amazing. And you've worked with the director a couple of times as well, haven't you?
Yeah, this will be this. I've worked with Clio twice now.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So you must have felt kind of like it's a bit almost like fate, really. Like you go in there and you're reading this part and you're like, I can do this. I know this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what it was because I understood the script so much that put me in such good stead. So I was kind of I knew the world, the language, and stuff like that. Like not knowing that were going to get me forward. I was just oblivious to the whole situation, literally to the point where I remember being told that Shaun Gilder was going to be in it, and I grew up watching Shameless, so I knew him as this big, Irish, quite brutal and violent guy. And I remember going down into like a meeting office in Bradford Town Centre, and I peered through like a little glass window on the door, and I looked through, and I'm like, oh wow, it's Paddy Maguire out of Shameless there. My head's like a little bit scrambled, and then when I walked into the room, I'm expecting him to speak in a thick Irish accent, and he spoke with the most softest, like neutral RP accent, and that just completely threw me off. I was like, whoa, this is what actors are capable of. And then like going on to the set for the first day on set, I can remember I was working with Elliot Tittenser, and he was also in Shameless, played Carl Gallagher. So again, with the Shameless thing again, I was like, oh, I've seen these on telly type thing. And I remember walking onto the set and seeing all the big, thick cables, and me being a young lad at that time, I was like, oh, that'll have copper inside that. And I was still in the mindset of where I was living instead of being on the movie set. And it didn't take long to me to fall into the loving acting and everything that was going on. It was only like a week or two I was questioning what cameras were used for and the sound and what's this used for. And yeah, I've become really obsessed with it.
Well, you're a veteran now. You've been doing this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 10 years ago since that film came out. So you've been doing it a fair whack now. Does it? It must have been weird to go from a part that you kind of feel like, oh, I know this part. This is me. I can do this. What was it like going on and doing your the second role that you played? Was that kind of weird going, oh, this is something a bit different and it's not,
Yeah, it was very, very weird and different in the terms of the temperaments of the characters. The second character I played for Clio, we were he had a lot of underlying issues and a lot of emotions churned up inside what he were releasing in the wrong sort of ways. So that one again, yeah, it was completely different to playing Swifty, and it were a lot trickier because I had to really go there with the emotions and really bring on the anger and the frustration in the scenes. And that's something I don't particularly enjoy doing. But the way Clio directs, she's got a wicked way of, talking to you and making you subconsciously tap into emotions that you've got from inside and what you've experienced yourself. And you just speaking with Clio and working closely with Clio, she just molds your mind into being able to perform to whatever's needed for the scene. Which is amazing.
I mean, one thing I've noticed, obviously, with The Selfish Giant and I mean, Cleo's films are they feel very real, very believable, and that's something that, with what I've seen of How to Have Sex, I just say to the audience now that I got halfway through it and then I haven't had time to watch the rest, but I'm like on a cliffhanger now, so I want to know what happens. But that movie, obviously, different director, feels very real, and the characters feel very grounded, and you believe it all. And this was directed by Molly Manning Walker. Again, a female director. Was it what the differences between working with the two ladies? Was it a different process? Because they kind of feel like they're on the same page in terms of the kind of films.
Well, I think with working with Clio because I knew I had all the knowledge and starting off in The Selfish Giant and being able to have input and put my thoughts out, that's kind of how Clio worked. And Molly was very, very similar. Very, very, very similar. We spent a lot of time speaking about where my character came from and what his friends may have been like. And I think it's the time that the directors have put into the actors that bring the characters depth and more layers. So yeah, again, Molly worked very, very, very similar to Clio in the sense of spending time with us actors, finding out our opinions, our thoughts, and trying to let us as actors put our own spin on those characters, so we felt natural playing those, so it didn't feel too far from the truth. And again, I think the writing is key to it because the writing's so real too. So when you're reading it, I could literally see these moments in my mind, and it's same with Clio's scripts again. Like you can read them and see the moments. So they're very similar in how they work, definitely.
I was really surprised by this movie actually, because when you look at the premise and you think I'm a bit older, obviously a bit older than you, but like I look at the premise, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to appeal to me. But like immediately I was like drawn in, and I was like, oh yeah, God, this is taking me back to being that age, and all of that, like going out and going to somewhere like with all your mates and having parties is like the life at that age. And I actually had a weird moment watching this where I was like, oh, I'm not at that age anymore. I'm watching this from a parent's point of view, going, no, don't do that. Don't, no. Like, kind of like, the feeling of dread.
Yeah.
But it really sucks you in. And the characters, as I said before, are so just engaging. And I mean, Badger as well. Your character is just, you expect the worst. You're like, oh, this guy's going to be bad news or whatever at the beginning. And then you realize, oh, he's a sweetheart. Do you know what I mean? The character's got a real soft side, and I've really enjoyed what I've seen of it so far, and I'm kind of annoyed that I haven't been able to watch the end, but I will do very soon. But in terms of like getting that character and making sure that at the beginning it feels like, oh, it could go either way with him, and then you realize, I don't want to give away to the audience, but you realize he's a good guy. What was it like playing with that?
Yeah, well, I think that comes from, again, Molly being such a brilliant director and just spending time with us and having the time to talk about the characters. And she did that with every single character too. It wasn't just with like, the main characters or whatever. But we played on the fact that Badger had a younger sister, which Paddy mentions in the movie. So for me, that was a part that I couldn't forget about. Like that were a moment I could not forget about. So it was kind of the thought of, once the Paddy mentioned that Badger has a sister and stuff, it kind of sets a trigger off in Badger's mind of, hang on a minute, yeah, this is kind of like my sister. So throughout the film, when there's those intense moments when Tara's looking down or she's looking really fed up or something may have happened, I kind of in my mind was playing it as if Badger was looking out for his sister type thing. So it kind of starts off with him coming out on the balcony and he's got this big appearance and the blonde hair and the tattoos, and he looks quite intimidating. But playing with the fact that he has the younger sister kind of gave him some empathy and sympathy and some heart, and the reminders of being at home and how would he feel if his sister was in this situation. So that's something we always we carried throughout the film, and I think that's what give the edge of Badger being quite a kind, nice guy.
No, definitely. That was that. It's really subtly done as well. The way I bodged that question made it sound like it was really obvious, and like, but you've done it. You did it beautifully, because you really, at the beginning, you're like, oh, I'm not sure about this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to ask as well. This is something that I noticed that I hope I'm correct in thinking, but Molly Manning Walker, who obviously directed this movie, she's also a cinematographer. So she was a cinematographer on Scrapper, which is a movie that came out not too long ago, like earlier this year. So on this movie, is she quite hands-on with the way the movie looks in terms of like, because the film looks incredible.
Well, I feel like Molly's super talented. She's done the directing, the writing, and she's done cinematography for Charlotte Regan on Scrapper, like you said. And I feel like her being a cinematographer and having the vision in her mind, I feel like she had a clear vision in her mind on how she wanted it to look with colours and shots and stuff like that. And I think that's what probably, credits to Nico, our DOP as well, but them two working together. I think with Molly coming onto set with the vision already in mind, I think, yeah, she had it clearly planned out on how she wanted it to look and how people were going to view it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks incredible. And I want to go back and ask, obviously when you started and you Selfish Giant was your first movie, and you were like, this is where I want to be. I can play this part. This is cool. I guess you were 15, 16 at the time.
Yeah, 15, yeah.
Well, that must have been. I mean, was it nerve-wracking? That sounds pretty nerve, especially when you've got all the, as you say, like you've recognised actors from Shameless, and you're there on set, like, oh, I've got to do this now. Like, was that pretty mad?
I'm not thinking back. I don't feel like I was that nervous. I was more excited and happy at the fact that I wasn't having to go to school and I wasn't having to sit in a classroom. I was kind of out of that. So that's kind of what I was buzzing about. But I don't know. I never really. It did at times get tough, and there were moments where I was like, I'm not meant to be here, and I felt like I shouldn't have been there. And there were moments where it got quite tough. But looking back, like I feel like I dealt with it pretty well for a young kid who never had any aspirations to go onto a film set and just to get kind of thrown into it. Luckily, it were around stuff that I knew, so I was comfortable in that aspect.
Mm.
But no, I feel like I dealt with it pretty good. Yeah.
Water off a duck's back. Going on from that and then doing bigger budget things, you had a part in Grimsby, and also worked with Tim Burton. Again, was it still water off a duck's back, or were you kind of a bit like,
again,
wow.
By this point I was only like 17, 18, so it's like three years after I'd done Selfish Giant. And I remember getting the audition for Grimsby, and I found it because I've always been into comedy and comedy films, stand-up comedians. I've always loved like that side of the industry. And I remember getting the audition for Grimsby, and it was just the craziest scene ever. And I was just like, this is mad. Like, I'm gonna have so much fun doing this. And then I did the scene with my uncle, and he actually just laid on the couch like in a pair of underwear with a bowl of cereal, and I was just like reeling off the lines, just being daft. And then I got the recall for it, and it was kind of like, whoa! Again, I'd never even expected to get the audition, never mind the recall. So I went to the recall, and there was like, oh, you do understand that you're going to have to be in your underwear for this. You might have to wear some sort of protection so you can't see your yeah. And then I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then I don't know why, just spur of the moment in the audition, I just took my pants down to my boxers and I just stood there in my boxers doing the audition. And then I got the job. And then I got flew out to South Africa and stayed out there for a little while, and then found out that the part that I was playing was actually meant to be played by John Bradley. But I think he must have been booked up in another job and he wasn't able to carry it on. So then that opened up the opportunity for me where I stepped in, and yeah, I had a grand time. I really loved making Grimsby. We were unbelievable.
That's wild though. Like choices like that in an audition, like it can go either way, can't it? But luckily when you're away, is that something that when you go into an audition, do you try and like think, how can I think outside the box for this? Can I do something maybe that's a bit different to everyone else?
Well, in my mind, because I'm just like my thinking was pretty straightforward. They said that to me, like you're gonna have like, right, cool, not a problem. You're gonna want to see me in my boxers type, and it was just like a spur of the moment thing where I didn't even really think, should I do this? Should I do this? I was like, right, and yeah, I'm fine with that look. It was kind of like that. I was just kind of trying to prove a point that I'm gonna say it and I'll also do it. But yeah, a mad choice. I don't know if I'd make that choice now though as a 26-year-old man. Because going back to like when you said to me about what was it like going on to Selfish Giant, I feel like if I were to get a lead role now in an independent film or any film maybe, I feel like I would carry a little bit of nervous and the expectation, and I feel like as I've grown, like my respect and my awareness to the industry and what it takes to get forward is a lot. I feel like now I know all of that stuff. I'm kind of like, I do kind of get nervous in moments, and I feel like I handle things a little bit differently now because I'm not as oblivious or naive to like the industry.
I think sometimes though, like that greenness can be like the power that kind of drives you, and you'll end up getting roles like you say from doing things like that are just really memorable, and people are like, oh wow, this guy's great, like bring him in. Like I love stories like that with auditions and so like going into an audition and it can be nerve-wracking and you sometimes you overthink it and you can completely blow it by just like overthinking it. But as you say, I think it sounds like you've struck a good balance, because it's like you want to have the respect for the people that you're working with and everything else, but you also still want to stand out and be that character and make the decisions that are going to hopefully get you the role. Now for a quick break. Are you a writer, director, actor, costume designer, perhaps makeup artist? Are you interested in camera? This is the place to share your journey. We want to hear from you. How did you start your career? Has it started yet? And perhaps, if you're feeling brave, share with us your most embarrassing film-related moment. So slip into our DMs at Life in Film Pod on Instagram. Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Life in Film, where you'll get episodes early and uncut, amongst other treats. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life in Film Pod, and find our video episodes on YouTube by searching Elliot James Langridge Life in Film. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9 to 5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills, or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone, for me, was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with BetterHelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. And back to the show. I mean, now that you've been doing this 10 years, is there something that you kind of really want to aim for, that you want to do, like, not only in the acting world? Would you want to try your hand at writing, maybe directing, getting involved behind, as well as like being on the camera?
Oh, most definitely. I've said this over and over again. Like the more stories that I see being told and the more scripts that I read, it just makes me want to write my own stories and tell my own stories from my own experiences growing up. And like even down to a point where I have actually wrote like small scripts and sent them to peers who were happy, credible peers as well, who were more than willing to support me and help me. And you know, they're definitely on the side of encouraging me to keep writing and do more. So the thing is, what I really want to do is establish myself as an actor first, because I don't want to kind of bite off more than I can chew. You know, I've got a long way to go. I've got to earn a few more stripes before I can kind of just step back and start doing writing and directing. But down the line, that is most certainly my aim to go on to write and direct my own stuff. I'd love to do that, and more so give more opportunities to people like myself when I were a kid. Places where I live, I'd love to make some, based in my own town, where I can get people from here involved, and maybe give them an opportunity and get them on a path that I got onto. So that's something that I definitely want to inspire more people where I live.
That's wicked, man. That's wicked. So in terms of, is there something that you know, people always start with short films, but you go on and write a feature or a TV series. Have you got anything in mind, or are you kind of like, okay, I'll do that in 10 years time? Or is there anything like brewing that a story you want to tell?
I kind of just want to tell. So what I've been in my mind, I've been thinking about, and I've put a bit of it on paper, is I'm wanting to tell a story about the youth clubs where I grew up, and the power they have and the influence that support workers have on young children, and when that's taken away, the effects that it can have. Because I feel like where I live, when I was younger, there wasn't a lot to do, but there was a lot more than there is to do now. And I feel like you can see that in the younger generations, in what they're getting up to, and the kind of life they're falling into. And I just feel like if we could do more to show how important youth clubs are, and I can tell how important they were to me, then I'd be so satisfied in doing that. Because again, like the youth clubs played a big part in my audition process in Selfish Giant and stuff like that. They were the kind of the people that were, another group of people that were pushing me towards acting and taking it serious and stuff. And yeah, I just feel like now the youth clubs, they don't really, I don't know if they're not getting funding or whatever it may be, but yeah, that's something I'd really want to tell a story about.
That's something as well. Like, I know that the youth club that I used to go to was a big part of, me wanting to be an actor. And I
Yeah.
think it's that support, and it gives options to, kids and people growing up to be like, oh, I can go down there, meet, just to meet people or whatever, or if it's a drama club or whatever it is, like it's such a huge part. And it's a shame that that is something that seems to be dying.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't done too much research, but from speaking to my nieces and nephews,
Yeah.
there's not a lot going on. And just looking back from when I were a kid, if we didn't have youth clubs, like I'd have been getting up to so much more mischievous behaviour. I'd have been out a lot more messing around, and just having a place like that to go and vent and maybe speak to someone, or it's a good start. And there's a lot of talk about people like men not speaking and stuff like that. And I feel like one of the big reasons why that is because they've not got the talking point from the start of their lives, and the youth club and youth support workers are a good source for that. If someone young's having problems and they don't want to tell their parents or their brothers or sisters, they can tell maybe a support worker in a youth club, and then that can set them up for when they're older to know that you are able to talk to people and you can speak your feelings and so forth and get support.
100%. We're actually sponsored by BetterHelp, which is obviously it helps a lot of people that have mental health issues, or if they just need to talk to anyone. And it's something that we like to talk about. And obviously, just I can't believe that there is still a stigma about mental health in young people. And for you, like being an actor and doing it for 10 years, I'm sure like there's been times when you've been out of work and you've been like, what am I doing? Do you have any sort of coping mechanisms for in between those jobs and finding ways to kind of get through? I'm not saying there's dry spells because you're doing very well, but like I'm sure there's a couple of weeks here or there where you have to sometimes find something, a hobby or something that helps you kind of get through the in between work.
Yeah, so for me, it was I used to, really struggle with, like dry spells and all. Am I going to make it? Am I good enough to make it? Do I speak properly? Am I educated enough? You have a lot of things going through your mind, especially when you come from a working class background and you come into an industry that there's a lot of high end people in. So you always kind of felt a little bit lower in the pecking order type thing. But for me, I just found I just started reading a bit more and just trying to use my time a little bit more productively in when I had nothing to do. So whether that be read a book or and I started reading stuff about manifestation and law of attraction, and that kind of helped me a little bit to a point. And then I realized that exercise was the key for me. Like when I exercise, I feel $1,000,000. When I don't, I feel like rubbish. So for me, it was educating myself on other areas, whether it be law of attraction and exercising, just to make myself feel better and get myself through them dry spells. So I'm not doing anything work wise. I'm still keeping myself productive, and I'm still like trying to keep active and writing to keep the creative juices flowing. So it's just for me, it's productivity. If I'm not productive, then I'm got a chance of falling into that trap of feeling down.
Yeah, I think that especially like anything in the industry, if you're freelance, I think having a structure so that exercise is always a good thing. I think. Also, it's very good for you, so that helps. But yeah, it's one of those things that people don't necessarily talk openly about, because when you're promoting something, you're talking about a product that you've shot maybe a couple of years back, and you're talking about the work. But I think it's so important to talk to actors about that downtime in between the jobs, because it's not something that we overly emphasize or advertise, because we want to make it look like we're working all the time, we're busy and we're successful and everything else.
Even when you're busy and successful, like it's still you're still like allowed to. There's still chances that you can be down, whether it be a family fight, like whatever it may be.
Exactly.
One of those.
Yeah. And with social media, it's difficult because there's a veneer there where people are like, yeah, it's all great, and I'm doing this and that, and as you say, you can be working, you can not be working, and it's all a bit like that's all you're seeing. You're seeing other people doing great, but
the great stuff. They're not posting. They're not posting the bills on the 28th of every month, are they?
Yeah, exactly. But to kind of, in keeping what we've just been talking about there, is there advice that you would give to, anyone that was coming into the industry now, like maybe kind of, something that kind of you learnt along the way that you could be like, well, maybe look out for that, or any sort of advice you'd give to a young actor?
So for me, it's kind of like the failures. Like you're going to be told no, 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 and you're going to do so many auditions and stuff like that. So for me, it's kind of all the failures, but like the more failures you have, when you get that success, it feels that bit more like, you've earned it that little bit more. So kind of don't get down from being told no. That'd be my main piece of advice. It'd be, keep strong and don't fall at the word no or failure. Keep going through that, and when you get the success, it'll taste better because the failure simmered for so long. So it's just one of those.
Yeah, it's that 98% of actors are out of work, so you've got to expect to get a no every now and then.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's just the laws of average with that one.
Hey, I'm Kevin Bacon.
It's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I'm Kevin Bacon.
Apparently, every actor is connected to Kevin Bacon by 6 degrees. So basically, obviously you didn't know who Kevin Bacon was at first, so you won't know what your 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon is. You might be closer, you might be, So right. I've got it here anyway. So you're connected to Kevin Bacon you obviously did the movie Grimsby. Yeah. Annabelle Wallace was in that film. I think that's how you say her name. She was in X-Men First Class, and Kevin Bacon was in X-Men's First Class. So you're pretty close. You're 3 degrees.
As if.
3 degrees. Yeah, 2 degrees. There's 2 degrees to Kevin Bacon. So you've done very well there.
No way.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm proud of that.
I have noticed that more and more people are like, who's Kevin Bacon? I'm like, it makes me feel old, man.
Most embarrassing moments,
Yeah, so going back to the Grimsby one, because we've been talking about that, it's kind of started my thought process on what we're going on in there. So when we were talking about doing the audition and the box shot situation, and they said I'd probably have to wear some skin-coloured, protection for cover, like to cover myself up. And they give me this, like these pair of underwear, like pant things, and I put them on, and I was kind of like, because I had to sit on the toilet in the scene, and I was kind of like really, I felt exposed type thing, and I realised I'd put the pants on back to front. So I was like, oh no, I've got it the wrong way around. I'm like, I need to go. So yeah, that were very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. Like,
you noticed before they started rolling, then that's good.
Yeah. I was like, well, I need to go readjust.
Oh wow, amazing. Well, this has been great, man. It's like really nice to talk to you, because genuinely watching the movies that you've been in and the parts you've played, like you're a lovely guy, and like stay humble, man, because it's a good look. It's a good look. But I've really enjoyed your movies, and I cannot wait to see the end of this one. I'm gutted that I didn't actually get to watch it. I apologize. I feel really
Make
bad.
sure you finish watching it.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna watch it now.
You've got everybody fighting for tickets, and you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll watch the rest of it later on. It's all right. Everybody's fighting for tickets, mate.
Oh no, it's funny because I was waiting for the once I emailed them going, oh, the link isn't working anymore. That I was waiting for the link all weekend, and I was like, come on, guys. Got it this morning, literally about an hour and 40 minutes before we were chatting, and I was like trying to log into it. The password wasn't working. I was like, and then ended up having an hour. So I was literally watching it as I saw your name pop up. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to watch that in a minute. But looking forward to seeing the end of it, man. And
I really hope you enjoy it.
All the best with the film. Not that you need it. It's gonna smash it. All right, mate.
Thank you so much.
Well, take care.
Cheers.
It's a Laughing Film, motherfucker. Subscribe and like and follow.
Thank you to our guest Shaun, and thank you to Hayley at Ace PR. And as always, thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp.